Good Sunday morning to you. The worst is over. You're either finished with your cover or nearing being finished. If you're not totally finished, it's okay. Don't worry about it, because today is going to be easier and you can work on both parts. You're finishing your cover and this part and be all caught up. But I have to put up a big fat disclaimer. This template may not be sold. I don't own the text in When Your Child is Missing found on missingkids.org. It's a public document. My tax dollars have paid for it already. However, since I don't own the text, I cannot sell it, never intended to, and neither can you. You can make as many copies of this template as you need to make books for your family and friends. But even complete books made from this template cannot be sold. We have some skill building things to do today that we're going to use later on when we put the journal together. So we're going to talk about folios first. Tabs I'm going to leave to the end to see if we have enough time. We're going to talk about scoring when you don't have a scoreboard. And as you can see, I'm not good at spacing letters. And we're also going to talk about accordion folding and why we want to practice that skill. So that's on our agenda. These are folios. You've seen them in the master journal before, where we use folios to separate different types of information. This happens to be our sampling book, where we take our inks and our stamps and see what they look like on different types of paper. This has a cardstock cover. Here's a folio I made for another project. I don't even know what project it was. And this has a paper cover. It's just a printed paper cover out of the corner of one of my master boards. And you can see that my printer for a year now has not been long for this world. But I don't care about these black marks, because this was an example of printing this template for notes or journaling on dyed paper. That's why I wanted it. This whole booklet has printing on different kinds of paper held together. I hope you can see this, with heavy string. 3 stitches, tie a double knot, all your pages are together. Here's the same thing, but it's unbound. And we're going to use this as an example of putting a folio together. So all I've done, all this stuff is simple today. All I've done is taken sheets where I've printed this note paper template on both sides of 8.5 by 11 paper. This is actually a better print. So it's formatted so there's note space on one side and note space on the other. And you do this in like a Word editor or LibreOffice, OpenOffice, any kind of writer program. That's how you lay this out. And you lay it out so that this is portrait, this is landscape. My video format is in landscape. So you want 2 notepads, you want to double print it so that you have notepad stuff on both sides. Then you're going to fold everything in half. That's why you want it printed on both sides. So you have front and back covers. This is 8 pages, and it makes 8 sheets of 8.5 by 11, folded in half. It makes 32, because each sheet has 4 note places. So it makes a 32-page booklet. And then if this, whenever you stack up a bunch of pages together, the inside page, which is this one, is the farthest one on the outside or the left or the right edge, because this stack, no matter how much you smush it together and fold it, it's always going to push paper this way. See, you can see that it's hanging over. If that bothers you and you like nice and neat, take your straight edge and line it up with the first page. And this is really hard to see for even me to see where the first page is. But you line it up with the edge of the first page. That looks pretty good. You take a very sharp, brand new blade, if you've been using your blade, and run down your straight edge. You can do this on a paper trimmer, but throughout this whole series, I'm trying to show you the techniques without using extra like scoreboards and that kind of thing. Don't spend the money. Take the time to do a good job, and you'll get the same results as people who use scoreboards and envelope boards and paper punches and that kind of thing. Now, I will say to you that I will use a corner rounding punch because I'm not good at cutting freehand. I've already told you this. So we just keep at this until we get through all the pages. Nice and easy, slow, so that you don't slip and cut yourself, and yet you get through all the pages. And we've got it for the most part. I'm going to attempt. I had my detail scissors out so that I could actually use them. I'm going to just attempt to even this up, but I'm not going to be real fussy about it because this is a junk journal. And so far, the only junk we've used is the cereal box. So now you can see I have a much cleaner edge. Where am I? A much cleaner edge on this side, and these papers being stacked up on this side do not make any of the book hang over. You don't have, you can leave it. Just fold them, stick them together, you can leave it. When you're folding, you want to get as close to right in half as possible. Then we're going to take any kind of sharp pokey tool. So what do I mean by that? I mean an awl. You can use one of these type X-Acto craft blades if you want to. I have an awl somewhere. Here we go. I have an awl, and it's sharp. It's meant to be sharp. So I'm going to go ruler. I'm going to go right on my fold line. Boy, I really can't see this. I'm sorry, you guys can't see it either. Let's do it this way. And I'm just going to draw my fold line. Maybe you'll be able to see it better. Maybe you won't. I don't know. I wouldn't normally draw on this inside page. Wow, this is hard to see. Okay, I wouldn't normally do this, but for you guys, I'll draw this line so you can see it, hopefully. This is my fold line on the inside. Maybe now you can see it. Okay, so I'm going to stack all my pages up. I'm going to recrease this as well as I can. You don't need a bone folder. I don't actually own a real bone folder. I have a plastic one that came with my scoreboard. So I'm going to burnish this down as well as possible. Line up my pages. A couple of binder clips will be very helpful to keep your pages straight and keep them from drifting. Now, I clip my binder clips. I clip one on the top in the back and flip my wings down. Then I clip one on the side in the front and flip my wings down. If you don't have little teeny tiny binder clips, use big ones. It doesn't matter. Just make sure they're not too big because they won't grip your paper. You can even, before you put your clips in, you can even go in with your ruler and really, really smush this down so you get the best lining up of stuff as possible. I can already see my stuff is starting to drift a little bit, so I'm not going to mess around with it. But your ruler is a very handy tool for this. Now, this is 8.5. So half of 8.5 is 4 1/4. 4, 5, 4.5, 4 1/4. Make a little mark there. come down 1 inch from the top, make a mark, come up 1 inch from the bottom, make a mark. These are your sewing holes. And I'm going to insert a clip from my old video because I all of a sudden realized I don't know where my dental floss and all that stuff is. Please stand by for the clip.
Okay, so that's all we need the ruler for right now. The next thing we're going to do, and use anything you have. I happen to have bookbinding clips. I have little bookbinding clips. So I am going to clip my book, and I like to do it, don't ask me why, but I like to do it with 1 clip up and 1 clip in. And I always put the wings down just for a little bit of extra stability. I don't know why it makes sense to do it this way to me, but it does, so that's the way I do it. Okay, now our pages aren't going to drift around, and they're as lined up as they're going to be. Thread our needle, and make sure our tail that has the knot is a little bit longer. So you go down through the center, and out through the back. You can hold your tail with the knot if you want to. I don't usually. Then we're going to go from the back up through the top hole, which didn't poke through as well. Sometimes if you take your awl and go through the inside and then back through the outside, it works a little bit better. Because these pages have shifted, believe it or not, just in fooling around with them. Alright, so up through the top. And I want to leave myself a little bit more of a tail. All the way down to the bottom. And yes, I just poked myself. Okay. And back up through the center. And the important part about this is you want your tail on one side, and where you come up, back up through the center, you want your needle to be on the opposite side. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So first let me get this in the center hole. I hope this is on camera, because we're a little cramped here. Alright, it went through, but it didn't go through all the pages. There we go. Alright, whoops. And we're out again. Up through the center hole. Our tail is on the left side, so we want our needle coming up on the right side of our center stitch. Pull it tight. Not, you know, not excessively tight, so you're pulling or tearing your paper. Tie a knot, just an overhand knot to start with. Get your tail out of the way, and turn it over and make sure there's no gaps here. And there aren't, so now I'm going to tie a surgeon's knot, which is an overhand knot, but you go through twice. Pull it tight. You can tie one more overhand knot if you're nervous about your knot tying ability. Seems like about half the binders tie 3 knots, half tie 2. But that's not going anywhere. Give it a nice tight tug. I like my tails pretty short. Some people leave these tails long and they put dangles on them and stuff like that. Not me. So there we go. And then, even though this isn't necessary, I like to put a dot of glue. That's a very big dot of glue. I like to put a dot of glue, not half the glue bottle, right on the knot. And I'll just sop that up. You can actually just tack your tails down like that if you want to, which I am going to. That's a pamphlet stitch. It's very easy.
Okay, the next thing we want to talk about is scoring with no scoreboard. So that if I, in the future, say score something, you know how to do it. This is an example of scoring, where you have made creases that allow your paper, your cardboard, your cardstock to fold better. I'm going to set this aside now, and I'm actually going to demonstrate 2 things. I'm going to demonstrate scoring, and then we're going to go right into accordion and why it's useful. So, in this instance, I am going to be scoring at 1/2 inch intervals. And if you don't have a mat that you can line up your ruler on, by all means use light pencil lines at 1/2 inch. So all I'm going to do is run my fingers. Now I have fingernails, so let's pretend I don't. I'm going to fold up 1/2 inch and run a burnishing tool which is, you know, your basic gift card, right along that line. Then I'm going to move my ruler again. I'm going to run my burnishing tool right along that line. And I think I might have gotten that one messed up. I sure did. So, since I noticed it, let's fix it right away. All right, there we go. Another 1/2 inch. And run my burnishing tool. One more, just for demonstration purposes. Here we go. All right, what I have right now, if I were to haul out my scoreboard, what I have right now is score marks, right? So in this instance, let's see. What I'm going to do is turn my paper and fold right on the score line. Then I'm going to flip it over. Remember, you made fans when you were a kid? Flip it over, fold on the score line. Flip it back, fold on the score line. Flip it over, fold on the score line. And so they're not quite a 1/2 inch in this case, so what? The point I want you to get is that you don't need fancy tools to do a lot of these techniques. And because I'm assuming there are people who don't have scoreboards and all that stuff, we are doing it the old-fashioned way. Now I'm just going to rip. I've gone a 1/2 inch beyond that last fold, and I'm just going to rip because it's easy and I can. Now, what did I make? I'm going to fold this back. I made a little accordion, just like you made fans when you were a kid. Why is this useful? See, I did a much better job when I was not on camera. Anyway, why is this useful? Let's say you wanted to make a pocket or a box joint folder of some sort to hold a thicker amount of papers. And as if you saw the first video in this series, you saw how thick that printed out booklet from Missing Kids, When Your Kid is Missing, on missingkids.org. You saw how thick it was. All I'm doing is taking a little white glue, not a lot, and spreading it on here. I'm going to give it a swipe with my silicone makeup brush. And so that spreads the glue out. Now, I'm going to put this running right along the edge of this. I want my folds, even though they're not very even, I want them running right along the edge, outer edge of this envelope. I'm going to do the same thing over here. A little bit of glue, a swipe with the silicone spatula to spread it out a little bit, and run it along the outer edge of this envelope. This is actually junk, by the way, in case you hadn't noticed. Now, if you were making this for real, you might not want to use an envelope on the back side. This is the back side. You might not want to use an envelope with a window for the back side, but it doesn't matter. And I have 2 lengths. I forgot to cut this off, so okay. We can fix that because the glue is wet. So all I'm going to do is fish around until I find this knife and gently, not cut all the way through, but kind of peel that back so I see how many layers I have still to cut. And when I get close to the envelope, I'll just peel the rest off because nobody's going to see it anyway. All right. Now what I'm going to do is exactly the same thing. And again, you can cover mailing envelopes with any kind of paper you have at your hand that you think is nice and will go together and, you know, be all matchy-matchy. whatever you want to do. So in this case, I'm only doing a demonstration, so I will not be covering it. But even if you glue this down, you can still cover. Let's get this back squished down a little bit. And because they're a little bit uneven, I'm going to start on this side. So I'm going to line this up again, top and bottom. You will see accordion folding and box jointing and all that good stuff over and over and over again if you continue to make junk journals. It's a very common technique, and again, as I said, we're doing skill building. So now what I have is one pocket here that has a window, and I can cover this whole thing with other paper. I have a pocket, a big fat pocket down here that actually, once this glue dries, I could, if I wanted to, trim this top part off so you could see the big pocket better. Then on this back one, I have the other envelope down here. Plus, if I carefully glue this down, I can have a full back pocket back here. Now, you say to me, that's all well and good, but there's a big hole in the middle. There's a couple ways to deal with this. You can make another accordion fold that goes in here, and you will have a squishable box joint like a file, those dark brown lawyers file folders, those big fat ones. Or you can glue this down, and I'm just going to use clips for this for right now for demonstration purposes. Pretend we glued this down, and so now we still have this slide in. We still have this. It will expand a little bit so you can see what's in there, but not as much as if you put a box joint down here. And then we have, this is why we cut thumb notches in the tops and sides of our pockets, so we can get them open quickly on camera. All right, so then you have this one, this one, this one. You can either glue this down flat or you can have a pocket back here. So now we've done accordion folding and why it's useful to make pockets that expand. And we've done scoring without a scoreboard. And when you're doing cardstock scoring, I'm going to use this anyway. When you're doing cardstock scoring, it's always good, before you fold it down, it's always good to score it so you have a good clean fold. So as I attempt to line this up nice and square, I would come down and at the center, I would just push it enough to get so it pops, so I get a good little visible crease right here. And then line this up on some lines so I don't totally mess it up and ruin the demonstration. So then I can feel this with my fingers where this crease is, and you can mark it if you want to. I tend to do as little mucking around with things as I can, and then you can crease your cardstock this way, just, you know, with a creasing tool, just the way you did before. I'm not going to do this one because I also want to show you that my printer is quitting on me again. So I'm not going to waste this cardstock. I'm not going to look at it and go, oh, I'll just use the other side, or I'll cut it down or whatever. I'm going to use it, and instead of, like I said here, you could, you know, cover this and this would be lined. You could cover this, do that stuff. What I'm going to do instead is use the misprint, and I already measured this, and I know it has to be on a 1/2-inch line. Oh my goodness. When I'm not on camera, this stuff goes like butter. When I'm on camera, forget it. So I can fold this up like this, go back and crease it again where I actually want it folded, and do the exact same thing. What I'll end up with, if this were folded flat, is a pocket where it's already lined with paper. So I, you know, just because my printer doesn't want to cooperate doesn't mean that I won't use something. So that's it for some skill building. What have we done today? We have made a folio, and your cards, your cardstock is what you're going to use to cover, your outside of these pages you sewed together. Like our example that just walked off the planet. Here we go. Right here. You're going to use cardstock as your outside piece. I think I'm going to leave tabs to next week, because I'm not sure how many of these folios you need to make, but at least make one for note-taking, so that you can have a place for notes, for phone numbers and contacts and websites and all that stuff in your Find Me Junk Journal sections. How many of these sections are we going to have? I don't know yet. But this is such an easy and quick tutorial that you should be all caught up by next Sunday. And you've got a skill to practice here. You don't need big envelopes. You can do this on small envelopes. You can do it with book pages. We're going to use this skill over and over again. I fibbed a little bit. I went ahead and finished that window envelope pocket or set of pockets just so you could see what it looks like. And what's sticking out of the top there in the big accordion fold part is about 25 pages of book page, just so you could see how much it holds. I don't recommend overstuffing it, but I wanted you to see it. By the way, those 2 window envelopes that I used for the demonstration, they are 6x9. So you can use a 6x9 mailing envelope. I would use cardstock for the accordion fold in that instance because it'll be a little heavier and a little stronger. You will have to cut one of the short ends down a little bit to make sure it fits inside your cover. You still have a poll up, by the way, as a reminder, until Tuesday, whether you want to do Midori binding or whether you want me to teach you a different binding skill, and there are a couple. That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining me. God bless you, and I'll see you real soon. Don't forget to leave your comments, questions, and concerns in the comment box below so I can help you out.